All right, we're live. Welcome. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. With my EP and other such craziness. I'm glad to be back. I hope I remember how this works. If you can, once you can hear me, let me know that you can hear me. I see people are showing up. There's a little bit of a delay. Let me know that you can hear me and see me in my screen. Make sure the old stream has not broken. As soon as I see that, I'll get things rolling. And I might even play you. I don't know what's going to happen today. Well, I don't know yet. But I might play you a little something. A few different somethings, actually. Great. All right. Y'all can see and hear me. And now you get an idea of how delayed the stream thing is. Okay. I want to play you just a tiny little snippet of a project I'm producing. This isn't going to go on the podcast. This is just fun for you folks who are here. So for Paul and Tim and Jarrell and Peter and Rob and Elk Cereal and Steve and Flying Mew and the rest of you, listen to how good this sounds. So yeah, it's pretty awesome and pretty fun. And I'll give you one other little sneak peek, and I'll tell you what it's from. Listen to this first verse.
Tonight is when I needed you.
Oh yeah, good stuff. Okay, let me close it out. That is, if you're a Dueling Mixes member, then you've heard this artist before. Her name is Frankie Barranco. And we mixed her song, which one was it? Sing Along in Dueling Mixes a few months back. And I've been working on producing an EP of hers that's going to be released on April 1st. You may have seen me promote the Kickstarter a few months back. I think it was November, where they were raising some funds to do the EP. It is gorgeous. If you haven't supported the Kickstarter, please buy it when it comes out. It's just so good. There's cello on, it's a 5-song EP. There's cello on, gorgeous cello stuff on 2 of them, with some violin on 3 of them. And it's just good stuff. So anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What episode are we on? I don't even know because it's been so long. 192 is my guess. Let me check over on the blog. And see where we are. If this is your first time, you may be wondering what in the world is happening. What is this crazy gringo doing? I do a weekly podcast that I've taken a few weeks. Well, we're on 195. I was way off. Okay. And it started as just a podcast, and then it became morphed into what it is now, which is it's still a podcast, but we do a video version, and we also live stream it here on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. So if this is your first time, y'all, I'm glad you're here because this is always fun. So what I say, this is 190. Oh, you already forgot. 195. Ask Joe 195er. And so what we do is I talk for a little bit. You can't find all my files. See, okay. So I took my hard drive to another studio just to copy files over. He was using Pro Tools. And this is going to be annoying. Underwater. Okay. And I think he accidentally renamed my drive. And I think apparently my drive had a space in it in the name of the hard drive. And then he must have renamed it on accident or something. I'm not trying to blame him. I could have done it. But it won't recognize, all my files aren't linked anymore, which isn't a huge deal. But it's a huge deal. So It's under the media folder, instrumental. Okay, I relinked the files. Praise the Lord. Let me save this template. Save as template. Replace my existing. Sorry, I know this takes time. Anyway, the format of this is we'll do a silly intro, then we will do a little rant section, and then we will answer as many of your questions as I can get to. And I don't know if we have a ton of people here today or if we're just down to a handful. Either way, those of you live, Will Paxton's here. What's up, Will? Ben Holmes is here. Johnny Lipsham's here. Rob Nordvik's here. The gang's all here. And I'll answer your questions. So if you have questions, be thinking about them. Adam from Poland, good to have you here. And once we get to the Q&A section, I will answer as many of those as I can. And probably have to cut it short a little bit. I'm on a deadline today. I've got to finish those mixes. That mix I just showed you, it's due today. So it's 4 mixes. I'm pretty much done. I've got that one that needs just some final polishes, if you know what I mean. So I can't spend too much time here because I got to get that donezo. So I'm going to move the, I'm going to put the ending. I'm going to have the cue the end music to come in right at 30 minutes. A 30-minute episode. How's that sound? That sound good? I thought so. Okay. So that will come in and will yell at me when it's time. Now we need an intro. I need an idea for an intro, folks. What's it going to be? 'Cause I can't pretend. Don't you want to be? Prabhat Singh is here. What's up? Kostas Antonopoulos from Greece is here. I feel like I have more people not in America than in America, which is not a bad thing. If I offended Americans, is it something I said? Probably. I can be offensive. By the way, have you heard my new EP? It's all over the world. What I mean is it's on Spotify, Apple Music. Check that out. Why don't we do this? A 90s R&B intro. Shadow Wolf's an American. You're my lone American here. Thanks, Shadow Wolf. But see, you got it. You have an anonymous name. Paranoid Americans, man. I'm just kidding. A 90s R&B intro, like what? And you can't sing it for me over the chat. I don't know. A fake Scottish accent. See, I've done that before. It's Johnny. I try my best. I've watched that Disney movie. What's it called? With the girl with the red hair. Her name is Funny story. Here's a funny story, Johnny. Friend of mine. What's that show called? Brave. Friend of mine, his daughter. She's probably 6 or 7, maybe 8. She said, "What was wrong? The girl in that movie, Merida. What's wrong with her feet?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, she said she wanted to change her feet." And she was saying change your fate, but it was in that thick Irish accent. Change my fate. Anyway, I thought that was funny. She didn't want to change her feet. Merida. Look at all you knowing your Disney trivia. That's impressive. I've wasted so much time already. Let's just sing it. I'll just sing it because I got to get into it. Or I could play something from the EP. Let's do that. Let me grab the EP files. We'll do that. The EP files. It's similar to X Files, but more musical. Joe Gilder music. I love having a folder full of all my finished music. That's very nice. You know what'd be funny is to put the put all the songs in here on top of each other. Like, you want to hear my EP? Let's do it. So just pick a random spot in the middle. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, we're doing that. So that's what my EP sounds like, you guys. Isn't that cool? Doesn't that sound great? Let's just give it what, like 5 seconds of that? All right, move that over. I don't want to change my fate. All right. This is Ask Joe number 195. Whoops, I don't have the input set correctly. That wasn't recording. We're on input 7 now, guys. Whoever's keeping track, it's input 7 now. Sure, copy all that over. Joel Polanco's here. Chinese accent. See, I don't know why. I feel like I can do a Scottish accent and I don't feel like it's offensive, but for some reason I feel like if I do like a Chinese accent that's offensive. I don't know. I don't know why. What is that? That's interesting. Wes DeLoach is here. What? All right. Here we go. This is Ask Joe number 195. And for the intro, you're going to listen to my entire EP. Wait, hang on, that's not it. This is Ask Joe number 195. For the intro music, take a listen to my EP, all at the same time. James Waddell, any day of the week, except today, because I already had lunch. We need to go get tacos for realsies. All right, so here's what all my songs sound like. This is Ask Joe number 195. For the intro music, take a listen to my EP, all at the same time. I think that's hilarious. And then we'll fade into the actual intro music. How about that? I think that's hilarious. Okay, let me get the video recording and we'll do this thing. We're recording, making a record. So, refresher. If you have a question, you can post it. It'll be a few minutes before I get to the Q&A, but go ahead and post it if you want, or wait till then, or be thinking of your really good question. And we'll get to it in a moment. All right, here we go. Let's do this thing. This is Ask Joe number 195. For the intro music, take a listen to my EP, all at the same time. Hello, dear. I'm back. Hey, it's Joe Gilder from HomeStudioCorner.com. It's been a couple of weeks, maybe it's just been a week, since I've done an episode of Ask Joe, and I've missed you dearly. What's been going on with me since that time? Well, a lot. February was a ridiculously busy month, but I did manage to finish my latest EP, which is 4 songs. I recorded it and mixed it and released it all in the month of February. Came down to, all-nighter. The very last day, February 28th, I was up till 3:30 finishing it. So not a good time manager yet, but I got it done, so that's good too. So if you haven't checked it out, that really literally was all 4 songs played at the same time in the intro. That's not terribly helpful, but I would love for you to listen to it. You can hear it over at joegildermusic.com. You can buy it there. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and other places. But it was really fun. It's a pretty rockin' EP. I'm really proud of it. There are things, and I'll do a more proper discussion on some things that I would have done differently or things I would like to change if I could go back, as we always do with any project we do, I would imagine. Can I get an amen out of somebody here? James, do you have some regrets every project you do? I would think that's somewhat true. But I'm glad. I like finishing. I like putting stuff out there. I like having a body of work. And this is just 4 more songs to add to the old body of work. But what's cool is I'm doing 4 EPs this year. So this was the first one released on March 1st. And I believe the rest will be released on the 1st of March, April, May, June, July, August, September, December, November, December. Anyway, every 3 months, and there'll be an EP for each one. Hopefully, I won't be as stressed or as rushed on the next few. But the first of 4 is out there. You can check it out, listen to it. Hope you enjoy. All done here in this studio in these 2 rooms, and had a lot of fun. The amens are coming through now from everyone, so I like that. Let's see what else. So as far as for future plans for the EPs, if you're interested, I'm probably going to try to change things up stylistically. I would like to do a more folk, almost alt country record. I probably want to do an acoustic one, just no drums and just acoustic. I think I'd also like to do something that's a little more poppy, and maybe something that's a little more like alt country, because I am from Mississippi, so I don't know. Who knows what'll happen? It'll probably. Oh, I'd like to do a piano one too, just all keyboards, but I'm not a great keyboard player, so that's probably not a fabulous idea. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is, gosh, I have so many things I want to talk about because it's been so long since I've talked to you. Big one today is going to be something I've been thinking about, and having released my EP. One thing you may notice if you follow me for a while, the musically. And some people actually had behind the scenes video footage of the entire process of making the EP for my VIP members. So if you're not a VIP member, you can join homestudiocorner.com/VIP and go in and you can see the songs in all their stages. And even one that did not make it on the EP. It was 5 songs to begin with. And you can hear each phase right after we recorded drums and bass, after I laid down a bunch of guitars, and then kind of moving on to the final version. So really cool to kind of see the songs evolve over time, and a few of my VIP members did their own EP challenges, so kudos to you guys for doing it as well. It's much more fun if we're all doing it together than if you're just watching me do mine. But what's interesting is I've made a more concerted effort the last year or so to really put myself out there and listen to more music. I will raise my hand and admit, I historically, my whole life, have not been great about listening to music. That is the dumbest thing. And I'm just now willing to admit that that's just dumb. I think there's an element of goodness to, I want to come up with my own music and not be influenced by everyone else. I don't know. And not have my own creative, whatever. But that's pretty arrogant as well. So I've been listening to more music and trying to listen to not just old stuff, not go back and listen to like an old, Glenn Chambers record, which that's great, but also like newer stuff, modern stuff, like stuff that was just released. And I'm finding that, and this may be completely old news to you, but if for the one person who's maybe like me and doesn't listen to a lot of music, I personally have found there's some pretty cool inspiration in that. Ideas for production especially. I had lots of ideas that have come from things I've listened to over the last year. And I know there's probably like James Waddell he was here earlier on the chat. Grammy winner, been doing this thing in Nashville for 20 plus years or something. He's probably shaking his head saying, this kid's an idiot. Right, I am. But I'm just now realizing how much I may have been missing. And it's really fun. So listening to, like last night I was listening to the new Ed Sheeran record that just came out. And, it's not my style of music necessarily, but man, there's so many good production ideas to be had from just listening, and even songwriting ideas. And just a lot of things, to be honest, I listen to it and you have that moment of, ooh, mine doesn't sound this good. Or James says he's still here and I'm not an idiot. So yay, James says I'm not an idiot. And we need to get tacos soon, my brother. Anyway, all that to say, if you can spare some time to listen to modern music, it'll make you feel like crap because yours doesn't sound as good, but it'll also drop little ideas in your head that you can apply. Boom. I am not on my game, folks. I didn't time the boom very well. I didn't finish my thought because there wasn't really an end to that thought. The fact that any of you are here, still here, is amazing. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Especially those of you who make the time to come here live. This is a whole lot of fun. So I'm going to dive into your questions. The way this works, if you come live, you get the best chance of me answering your question. You can also ask them over on Facebook. I usually post in the morning that I'm doing this in the afternoon. So if you can't make it, you can post your questions there. Find me, Joe Gilder Music, over on The Book of Faces. So I'll get a couple of those Facebook questions and we'll get into the live questions as well. Andrew Fritz says, I've been working on my first EP. I've been listening to you for a while, but I don't trust my own ear. However, with my current budget, I can't afford to hire someone to mix it. Should I wait until I can pay someone or just give it my best shot and release it? I have kind of a hybrid answer. A few people were in the chat, in the comments, were saying, go for it, do it yourself, because that's the best way to learn. And I agree with that. I agree with that. I also have something else to add. You can get good from learning and watching videos and, subscribing to Home Studio Corner. There's a self-serving promotion right there for you. But you're only, it's kind of like, my wife is a nurse, or she was a nurse. And there's the whole idea in medical circles, I don't know if it's true, I think it is, of what is it? See one, do one, teach one. I think that's it. James, tell me if I'm right. Your wife's a nurse. The idea of part of the learning process is actually doing the thing. Seeing someone else do it is a part of it. Obviously, learning how it works, but then doing it yourself is a big part of how you do it. And then, ironically, I learn a lot from teaching it too. So I would say doing the project is going to be a big thing for you, because there's something about, especially that, even starting a project is good, but there's something about that last 10% of a project where you finally have to make those hard decisions you've been putting off. You finally have to decide what you're going to do about that vocal tone you don't like, how you're going to deal with that one part that sounds weird, and you have to face those really hard, annoying decisions, and you end up being better for it. I feel like that last 10% is probably the part where I grow the most when doing a project. That and maybe the first 5%. We're going to come up with a formula. Because once you start the project, it's kind of laid out, and you have to just fill in the gaps of stuff that it needs production-wise. But that finishing part is so important. So I would say jump in and do it. Now, if you don't have budget to hire somebody, that's just a pretty much a given that's the only option for you, right? Unless you can find somebody who's wanting to do it for free in exchange for experience or something, that's certainly a possibility. But the only way you're going to get better is by doing it. Now, I will say something that a lot of people are doing, not a lot, but a handful of people. Ben Holmes, who's here on the chat, he's a client of mine. He is I mastered his latest EP. And part of that mastering process, he hired me to master it, but he also hired me to do critiques of the mixes so he could go back and kind of update the mixes, do some changes before he sent the final mixes to me to master. And it kind of just came out of, I don't know if I suggested it to you or if you came up with it, I can't remember, but I've started doing it more and more. Gary Fox is here. Gary just finished recording an entire album in January, doing the RPM challenge. And he also is going to hire me to go through and listen. He's going to mix the songs and have me listen to them and give him feedback. So like the mix critiques that I do for my VIP members, where once a month I sit down, much like this, on a live stream, and I listen to as many songs as I can and stop it along the way and give feedback. I do that as well if you want to hire me to do it. So contact me. It's cheap. It's way cheaper than hiring me to mix it. And at best, you get a second set of ears, or at least you get a second set of ears on your project, and I'll hear things that maybe you don't hear or can't yet hear and give you some practical suggestions for what to go back and do yourself. So am I shooting myself in the foot by not getting clients that way? I don't know, maybe. But you just said you don't have budget to hire somebody, so you may have the budget to hire me to critique something. So email me, joe@homestudiocorner.com. Let's get together. It's not get together, it's stay together. But I mean, you've got to get together before you can stay together, guys. Come on. Ben Holmes has a question. I just mentioned Ben. How nice is that? He's on the chat and he's asked it over on Facebook. He says, do you ever send mixes to anyone else to critique? If so, what are the kinds of things you are still learning by the process? I do occasionally. I'm one of those arrogant guys who I feel like I kind of know what it sounds like and I know what I need to do, so I don't usually send it off as much. But if it's one of my own projects, my own music, where I'm so involved in it, I can't hear obvious things anymore because I've just been so ingrained in the music. I will do it sometimes. And usually it's just, like for example, Graham Cochran sent me his latest EP. He was finishing up mixes. He sent me a couple mixes and said, hey, can you just give a quick listen? Just how does this land on you? Is there anything obvious I'm missing out? And I listened and said, yeah, the drums are too loud or something. Something basic like that. Not like a 10-page response. Just, yeah, I think drums are too loud. Otherwise, I think it sounds great. And he was like, yeah, you're right. And he fixed it and moved on. So then with this EP that I just finished, I sent one to him and said, hey, listen to this. Just let me know. And he gave a quick response of like, sounds great. Could use a little more punch out of the kick and snare. And it overall feels a little soupy mid-rangey, kind of muddy overall. And I got that back, and it was just a quick response, which is kind of what I wanted. Said, great, thanks, awesome. I also sent it to a few other friends, and they kind of were giving more. They wrote back like these big, long responses of like, I would maybe try a different guitar part here, maybe try this different production stuff. And I'm like, no, I just wanted like, hey, turn the bass down, because it's too late. It was too late to actually go back and redo anything. So usually I'm just looking for a quick, hey, this is great. Okay, let's be honest. I send it off. I really want them to write back, this is fabulous. You're amazing. But usually they'll come back with something. And it's really just a something, either something I hadn't thought of that I can pay attention to, or it's something I knew was there and I either can't fix it because it was in the recording, like that messed up snare drum, or maybe it's something that they just want and I prefer it the way I have it, that kind of thing. So it's really just trying to just uncover any quick blind spots, and that's what I do. So I think that's valuable. And yeah, so I don't do it a ton, but I do it some, and it's helpful. And then obviously doing client work, you're getting feedback from them. So it's kind of like getting a critique every time you mix something. They come back and say, no, I don't like this, I like this. And that's interesting. That's more interesting because what I might prefer in a mix, the client might prefer something else. And obviously I either have to sell them on my way or do what they want, because obviously the client should get what they want. And a lot of this is subjective, but it's kind of fun. If you've never been a sales kind of person, it's kind of fun to try to sell people on why your way is better. It's a fun challenge. And just as a complete aside, if you have never been a salesperson, like as a career, you should pursue it somehow, because being able to sell something is just it. Especially if you're wanting to do like client work, whatever. You got to be able to sell stuff and be comfortable with asking people for money. So I would like to ask you for money right now. I'm kidding. I'm just joshing you. Riogdal says, Dear Joe, thanks in advance. Please let me know how to achieve more volume in a realistic way. Well, I don't know what you mean by volume. You mean your final masters? Slap a limiter on there and turn it up. That'll get you some volume. As far as recording level, I would say it doesn't really matter. I record at really conservative levels because you can always turn it up, but you can't always get rid of it if it clips. If you clip the converter going in, that section of the audio is done for. So I like to just record at a nice conservative level. And then you can get mastering is what you're talking about. You say you tried limiters, compressors, and seen all the tutorials about it, then you're good. It could be the style of music. You know, there are, if you follow Ian Shepherd, he'll talk a lot about the loudness wars and how a lot of mastered finished music is ridiculously loud. I don't know. He's saying he's must be something else. He's light years away from a decent volume. You know, it could be a large number of things. It could be your mixes aren't very good and are very bass heavy, and it's hitting the limiter, and the limiter's slapping it down because there's so much bass. If you get a better mix, you should be able to get a louder volume out of a limiter without it sounding crazy. But putting a limiter on there, pulling the threshold down, or increasing the volume into the limiter, I mean, that's the way. That's the basic way to get volume. So I'm not going to be able to help you probably any more without actually like pulling it up and seeing it. Luis Rodriguez, and I saw your email today, Luis. I will we'll get to that this afternoon. Says, Joe, how do you fix a mix if it's very bright or very off? Do you do it instrument by instrument or on the mix bus? You know, it completely depends. If you haven't watched my Mix Together series that I'm doing, it's at a point now, we're probably 16, 17 episodes in, where I'm redoing a lot of stuff I've already done. So I'm listening, I'm saying, well, I don't like that snare tone anymore. Well, I don't like the guitar tone. I don't like the way the kick and the bass sound anymore. So it's kind of that whole big circle of like you do work and then you listen and you don't like it anymore and you go back and undo it and redo it. So it could be anything. I think the biggest, really the best answer is you've got to use the fix. You got to use the fix that makes the most sense. So if it's your overall drum sound, let's say, here's a simple example. Let's say you like the sound of your mix, you like the sound of your drums, but there's a ringing in the snare, right? The snare drum has this ooh every time it hits, ooh, 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 and it's annoying, right? So there's a couple things you could do. You could go into the snare drum track and find that frequency and notch it out, and that could work. That could be a possible solution. Or it could be that you've got a mix where the overhead and the rooms are really loud in your drum mix, and that snare was ringing in the entire room, and that frequency is getting picked up by the overheads, getting picked up by the room mics, getting picked up by the hi-hat mic, the tom mics, the kick mic, whatever other mic, hi-hat mic. So if that's the case, then it makes more sense to probably go in and just notch that frequency out on your drum bus because it's present everywhere. So really the first thing you do before you address the problem is figure out what is the problem. For example, like my snare drum, here's a great example. I was mixing on my EP that I just released. I was mixing the vocal, and I had it going off to a slapback delay with a distortion on there. So I just really like that sound. And I was mixing, and my vocal was just too warm. It was too warm. It was too thick. It was too muddy. And I kept EQing the vocal, and it was kind of helping, but not really helping. Come to find out, it was the delay that had so much thickness to it. It was the one that was with the distortion, the way it was set up, it was adding more low-end rumble. So I went and EQ'd the delay signal and got rid of all that mud, and it fixed the problem. The way I discovered that was I turned the delay off and listened to the lead vocal, and it sounded fine, added the delay back in, and there was the mud. So you have to identify the problem before you can fix the problem. And we're really quick. We want to jump in and fix it, but if you haven't identified it, you might be spending the next 20 minutes EQing something that's not really the problem in your mix. So that's a roundabout answer to a simple question, but that's kind of the way I would think about it. Joel Polanco says, when you final mix down a session, what settings are standard as far as bit rate, sample rate? What do you send to clients? Thank you, Joe. You're amazing. Oh, you're amazing, Joel. As far as sending them mixes to listen to, I just send them an MP3, like a 320K, 320 kilobit per second MP3 file to listen to. If they want a wave, if they request a wave, I'll send it. It's just MP3 smaller file. As far as final, if I'm just mixing, I send them a 24-bit. No, I send them a 16-bit 44.1 wave file as the final. Same thing if I'm mastering it. No, if I'm mixing and they're having someone else master, I bounce it down at 24-bit. So then the mastering guy can do the dithering and all that. If I'm doing mixing and mastering, then I give them, usually at the end of the session, I give them MP3s, 320K MP3s, and then 16-bit waves, 16-bit 44.1. If they ask for something else, like a FLAC file or a something else, I don't usually get anybody asking for other stuff. Those are what I deliver. And I deliver. Let's scroll up to some other questions. Gary says, I'm trying to de-harsh and add warmth to some electric guitar pieces. I know harshness usually resides somewhere 1,500 to 4,000 or 1,500 to 4K, depending on the guitar, but where is warmth? Thanks. Warmth is deep down inside of you. Warmth for guitars, here's something. If you're having, and this is not really answer your question, then I'll answer your question. If you're having a lot of harsher guitars, I have started, hold on. I've started using, sorry. If you're watching the video, I'm getting a microphone. I've started using this mic. It's the Cascade Fathead. It's a ribbon mic. It's a cheap ribbon mic, but hold on. Please hold. But it's a very dark sounding mic. And you've probably heard people say ribbon mics sound amazing on electric guitar amps. And it's true, they do. So this is the Fathead. I've shown this before. They call it a Fathead because it has a fat head. And it's a cheap ribbon microphone. I've got two of them. And I love it on guitar amps. And I love it on as kind of a fat mic on just overall drum kit mic. It sounds good. And for percussion, it's really great. Because it just doesn't have all that extra hype top end that you end up taking out anyway on your shaker tracks. Well, not really. But so the first thing I would say is maybe get a mic that, and I put this right on the cone of my amp where it's the brightest. And because it's such a dark mic, it just matches up nicely and sounds really great. So that would be one thing is getting the right mic in place and the right mic placement, obviously. As far as warmth, and so the reason I say that is this has excessive low end. I usually end up rolling off a lot of low end, which means I've got plenty there to give me warmth if I need it. So warmth on electric guitar for me is probably 1 to 250 or so in there. That's usually where I find my warm spot on electric. Any recommendations this is from Justin. Any recommendations regarding album artwork options when you prefer to spend nothing or very little on artwork? I'll give you a recommendation. It's probably bad advice, and anyone here who is actually a visual artist or a graphic design will probably want to smack me. I use a website called Canva, CANVA.com. I use it to make all the thumbnails for my videos and any other basic stuff that I want to make. And if you see the album art for my latest EP, I just made it on there. I'm not a designer. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But I just did it because I like you. I didn't have time. It was coming out the next day, and I didn't want to spend money, so I just did it there. So probably the right way to answer that is you probably shouldn't do it yourself. But here's I don't know if you can see that. Here's my album art. So it's a record with a wooden background, words around the corners, and then I have a little blue in the top right corner because I'm doing 4 EPs this year, so it's a 4th. And so the next one will be that same artwork with that quarter rotated down a quarter in a different color and a different name. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, go to Fiverr. If you've got $20 to spend, go to Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, and just submit. Hire 4 different people to make an artwork for you for $5. There's a good chance that one of them will have something that you like. So there you go. All right, I'm scrolling up to see what other questions I might have missed. If I missed your question, feel free to type it again. It'll pop at the bottom, and I'll be able to see it. Johnny is asking about the snare drum on my EP. I mentioned, I'm about to sneeze. Hold on. I mentioned in on a video and maybe on this podcast that when I was recording snare drum for this EP, I ran the snare through my ADL 700, my nicest preamp, and like an idiot, I just slapped the compressor on and didn't really listen to it in solo. So anyway, I overcompressed it and it just didn't sound very good. With all the faders up, it was sounding okay. We were happy. Nobody thought, hey, that doesn't sound right. So we just moved on and went with it. So anyway, to answer your question, I ended up not doing anything. I tried to do a basic sample replacement of one, and I didn't feel like it helped that much. And the sound of the overhead and the fat mic that I had, the sound of the snare and the fat mic in the overheads, and then the snare bottom mic ended up being awesome. I just boosted the low end and the bottom mic and took down some of the harshness. It actually sounded surprisingly good. It ended up working well for me. So, and the kick and snare on this EP are not great. The kick drum was a Ludwig, but it didn't have a hole in the head, so it's a little more thuddy sounding. I just couldn't get a real snappy kick drum sound, but I just didn't want to bother with sample replacement. I was pressed for time. I don't own Trigger. I didn't want to go buy it. I couldn't find an iLock anyway, so I just went with it. Tim Scott, what production aha moment did you have from the latest Ed Sheeran album? I don't know if I had a specific aha moment. I think I just noticed how his vocals were very, very upfront, very clear. And then just in general, every element in the mix was, it was not like a mush of sound, like a wall of sound. It was a bunch of very specific sounds and you could make out everything clearly. I tend to like to mush things together. And it was just cool to kind of hear it in a different way. Let me see if there are any other questions. I got about 5 minutes left, so. Mr. Hotspurs says, write a song. Great advice. How do I start to do that? I would suggest picking up an instrument and coming up with a cool chord progression. And once you have that, try to come up with a melody and then words. I don't know. I mean, it's just do it. Your process will be different. If you've never done it before, you should try a lot of different things, but that's what I would do. Oh, you know what? That was a follow-up to his previous question, which says, I'm a so-so guitarist, brand new to recording and mixing. I love EDM, guitar-based rock. Where do I start to learn? I don't know. It depends on what are you wanting to learn. Are you wanting to learn to record? Then I would say record. If you want to learn to mix, then I'd say mix. If you need, if you've never done the recording process, don't know where to start, I've got a course called Production Club, which is basically like a 19 video course where I walk through starting with just a guitar and building out a full full band kind of acoustic rock style song, that may be a place to start. Dive into all my free stuff on YouTube. I mean, there's a bajillion places to start. The important thing isn't where you start, it's just that you do start. Anupam says my PC specs. I don't have a PC, but I've got a Mac. It's an iMac 27-inch from 2013, I think. About this Mac. Let's see. I only have 4 gigs of RAM. I have 8. 8 gigs of RAM. It's a late 2013, 3.4 gigahertz Intel Core i5. 8 gigs of RAM, and I've got a bunch of external hard drives. Nothing fancy. Chris Brady says, you said you used Melodyne on your EP. What tracks and where did you use it? Can you share a video on this? Yeah, I'll be doing a video on this. I historically don't tune my vocals. I just keep singing them over and over until I get them right. And on this EP, because I was pressed for time and I had just been interacting with other people who tune vocals, it's just a normal, Nashville, it's a very normal thing. On these big major label releases, just part of the process. And so I've been doing it on some other projects because they've requested it. And lo and behold, that turned out, I'm starting to change my tune on it because yes, you can correct pitch, but you can't create good tone with Melodyne, right? You can't become a good singer. I can't bring you in if you have no tone and have you sing into a mic and I'll make you sound amazing. It doesn't happen, right? But what I can do is take a performance that was great and had a lot of energy, but a few notes were pitchy, and I'll go in and fix those. So the vocals, the lead vocals, most of the lead vocals I tuned. I think all of them I tuned. And then the background vocals I just tuned really aggressively, just especially like on the song Someone to Blame. On that bridge, there's a 4-part, there's 8 or 10 background vocals singing like 4-part harmony ending with a fully diminished 7 chord. That needs to be tight tuning wise. And it sounded great, but when I tightened it up with tuning, it actually sounded better and tighter. Funny how that works. So that's what I did. Am I using any other DAW other than Studio One? No, right now I just use Studio One here. If I go somewhere else, I'll use Pro Tools because that's probably what they have, but that's what I use here. Will my mix, okay, I got just a second. Will my mix sound too clustered if all the guitars and vocals are recorded with the same condenser mic? It's possible. Changing up mics can change up tones, but the biggest thing that's going to change you is changing out what parts you're playing. If you play the same guitar part 10 times, then yes, but if you change out the voicings and all that, you'll be in good shape. I totally ruined the timing on this. I'm going to extend it out just a little bit because I'm just rusty. But what I will say is that, yes, if you are going to record, let's say you're recording 4 guitar parts. If you record 4 of the exact same thing, doesn't matter what mic you use, it's going to sound great. But if you record 1, 2 of the same thing and then try a different voicing or a different guitar or a different tuning or put a capo on, those are the differences that are going to make it sound different. A different mic will make it sound a little different. Different part will sound way different. That's it for me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here live. I'll see y'all next week. Later. I totally blew that. I had like a minute to get ready for that final question, and I did not make it. I'm not on my game today. Got to get back in the swang of thing. Let's just move that over. That's it for me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here live. I'll see y'all next week. Later. Oh, well, what do you do? So the episode will be a little longer than 30 minutes. Free prize. Pat, any ideas on when I change my block size, my latency numbers don't change? Nope. Sorry. I don't ever mess with that stuff. Granted, I use a mixer, so I don't ever worry about latency because I just listen off the board. It's the benefit of using a mixer. Still good info even if you're slightly rusty. Thanks, Rob. I need an oil can. Isaac, you're asking where Snoopy is? My girls took him, and then the dog got him. He's somewhere. He's still alive. He might be in one of my girls' rooms, maybe. Justin, advice on copyright protection. What steps do you take? I don't take any steps. I know that some people do. If someone tried to steal my song and I've released it, I released a song in 2010. You can go and look and see that it was released in 2010. And in 2014, someone does a cover of it and doesn't pay me a royalty. Well, it's clearly my song. Like, I think that would even hold up in court. I'm not a copyright lawyer. I think so many people, they don't want to release music because they're afraid someone's going to steal it. Your problem isn't that people are going to steal your music. Your problem is that no one's going to care about your music. No one's going to hear your music. No one's going to, your music may not break through the noise and ever get heard by anybody. So that's what I would worry about, is making amazing music and working hard to figure out how to get it in front of people so that they actually listen to it. If someone steals your music, you're probably doing something right. But a lot of people want to get hung up on, how do I protect my music from getting stolen? Your music's probably not so great that everyone's going to be trying to steal it. It just statistically probably isn't. That said, I've been making music and releasing records for years now. I don't think anyone's ever stolen my stuff. I've had people steal like articles on my website, or they'll take some of my paid courses and put them up somewhere else. And I just don't care. I just don't. There are better things to spend my time on. And for me, things like making better videos, making better music, making music that's so good that people will want to buy it, like that. And so some people want to steal it, sure, but most of them want to buy it. So anyway, that's what I think about it. Vigard, you said, if you don't have a great room, is it a good idea to use a room mics, or would it be better to use some kind of room reverb? I'm always a fan of using room mics just if you have the inputs and the mics for it, because you never know when you might capture something kind of cool. Like my room in there isn't great, but I use some room mics. I put a room mic in the bathroom, and it was just a distance thing that made it sound halfway kind of cool. So yeah, I would do that with I would set up room mics, and then if it doesn't work, just use a room reverb. Good to go. Paul says, I heard Graham talking about your submix bus. Can you explain it? If you're talking about like the way I used to do it in Pro Tools, basically I just route everything to, instead of going everything to the master fader, it goes to this bus called submix, and that's where all my master bus processing would go. Then I would have a master fader for that submix and a master fader for my main output so that I could see if anything was clipping under the surface before it gets to that bus. I've got a video on it somewhere. You can go search around my YouTube channel. You'll probably see it. Something about search master fader. I'm sure it'll show up if that's what you're talking about. Okay. If I missed any questions, type them in. I will stick around another minute or two. But then I've got to get going and finish up this EP, get mixes to them so we can get revisions back to me, and then we can make it sound amazing. What is your opinion of mixing with a good set of headphones and Waves NX if you don't have a good room? Good headphones are great. I know plenty of people who get great mixes on headphones, and yes, you don't have to worry about your room. I'm not familiar with Waves NX or any of the other ones that stuff that make your headphones sound like speakers. I understand it. I don't see the point. I would just rather learn how to mix on my headphones, right? But maybe they're great and make it a little easier. I don't know, but if you can get a good mix on headphones, and then you just have to do the work to make sure it translates. My buddy Derek said it well. He said, anytime I mix on speakers, and granted he has an amazing room, it always sounds, when I get a good mix on speakers, it sounds good on headphones, but he said it doesn't always go the other way. When he mixes on headphones, it doesn't always translate as good in speakers. I like headphones, and granted, I've got some nicer ones. These are the HD 280 or HD 650s from Sennheiser, so they're $300 to $500 depending on when and where you buy them. But I like them especially for low-end stuff, because low frequencies are the ones that are all jacked up in pretty much everybody's room. And if I'm starting to lose sight of what's happening in the low end, I'll listen on there for a while. And I'll kind of make my low-end decisions on there and then switch back to the big speakers and see if it still sounds okay. And if it does, we're good. Any advantages of recording in 24 or 32-bit? I don't see any advantage to going over 24. Internally, it all gets converted and floating point and all that stuff anyway. So yeah, I just do 24. Have you heard of replacing kick and snare with a sample that have white noise and reverb? No, but I could see that being interesting. I want to say on one of my songs on this EP, I did use a tone generator. This is an old trick. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Stand by. What song was it? It was probably... I'm going to find the EP first. I'm going to say it might have been Comfort. Let me open it up real quick.
And let's listen. Okay? Let's take a listen to what I'm talking about.
Let's see if this is it. Nope, hang on. The screen is so small right now. Let me make it a little bigger so I can actually see something. Yoink. Nope, I didn't do it on this one. Let's close. Don't save your changes. It might have been. I don't think it was someone to blame. Must have been Trade. Let's try that. So the idea is you set up a tone generator on a track, and it's just generating a frequency, like 90 hertz, 100 hertz. And then you put a gate on it that turns it all the way down, and then you trigger the gate from the snare drum or whatever you're trying to replace or trying to augment. And see if I can find it. Yes, this is the one I did. So let me switch over to my desktop. You can see it a little better. Okay. So this is my drum sound. Let me just save this real quick. Save as video. Hold, please. So the drum sounds on this EP aren't amazing, but basically what I did, I've got a snare tone track that is literally a tone generator that sounds like this. Hear that? It's 90 hertz, 88.9, which was a frequency that I felt was kind of needed. That was needed in the in my snare drum sound. So I triggered it off of my snare top mic, and so you can hear every time the snare hits, this comes through. So it just lets it through, and then the gate shuts down again. It just turns all the way down. So this is my snare drum sound. Here it is without the tone. Here it is with. Just adds a little bit of stuff down there because I did a crappy job recording it. There wasn't enough down in that 90 hertz range to give it some thickness, so I had to introduce it on this song to make it work. And overall, I think it worked well. This song's fun.
Something for nothing. Trust somebody who knows.
Anyway. That's that song. So yeah, that's so I could see how doing that same thing, you could just use a white noise generator, do the exact same thing, generate just a weird sound, and send it to reverb. You could totally do that. So yeah, I could see that happening. It's a very real possibility. Do you necessarily use sidechain compression on bass with the kick? No, John, I never do that. I mean, I've done it once or twice. I don't ever see a need for it. All right, folks, that's it for me. I need to go bounce this and get it all exported, uploaded, do the video, all that stuff. So thank y'all for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week. Hopefully. Figure out how to turn this off. See you later. This is Ask Joe number 195. For the intro music, take a listen to my EP, all at the same time. Hello, dear. I'm back. Hey, it's Joe Gilder from Home Studio Corner. I am not on my game, folks. I didn't time the boom very well. I didn't finish my thought.